pandemic got us into a reflective space and made us look inward to see what we can do for the world at large. As a self-expression coach, I became a catalyst for women and started Vani, a one-on-one coaching program for women on finding their voice, to speak up, to be visible. As a storyteller, I spotted there were many ordinary people amongst us leading extraordinary lives, making a difference to the world, and they needed to be heard. Thus was born You and I with Rashmi Shetty, where amazing personal journeys with their uniqueness and individuality are showcased. A reaffirmation of the fact, open your eyes wider, the world is far more beautiful when we acknowledge the presence of both you and I. Our guest today is Harish Bijoor, a brand domain specialist operating out of Bengaluru, India. He runs a unique boutique consulting outfit branded Harish Bijoor Consults Inc, a brand name that has a consulting presence across the markets of Hong Kong, Seattle, London, Istanbul, Dubai, and the Indian subcontinent. A popular public speaker, author, and quizmaster, Harish teaches at the Indian School of Business, Hyderabad and Mohali, in addition to semesters at overseas business schools in the US and Europe. He has published papers extensively on the subjects relating to strategic marketing, branding, consumer behavior, retail networks, rural marketing, market research, and trend analysis, and contributes regularly to business publications too. He loves Bengaluru but hates all the garbage being dumped around and believes it would be the biggest challenge of the new millennium. Listen in as Harish Bijoor clarifies the changing branding scenario, online presence, personal branding, and attitudinal shifts in the new normal. A complete pleasure catching up again, Mr. Harish Bijoor. Personally, for me, I've been a constant admirer of yours, mainly because of the way you brought in the term branding before the world started speaking it as a profession. A brand strategist, and for me, the branding guru, and proud that we belong to the same city. Thank you so much for giving your time to You and I with Rashmi Shetty. Generally, when we start the conversation here, it's a little about into your personal journey. So the little Harish to the Harish Bijoor that the world knows, and you lead the journey.
Firstly, Rashmi, it's a pleasure to be meeting you again. I remember our last meetings, possibly two meetings, on radio in particular. I would say that, you're being very kind to me with all those kind words that you have proffered. My belief has been that, you're only as good as you are now. Okay. And what you did yesterday is history, total history. Yes, people remember it, people talk about it, but, I think it's over. And so I think I have always valued the power of now, the Eckhart Tolle, theory and concept, which is amidst us, historically, but conceptualized, sharpened by Tolle. I have always believed in the power of now. So I think I believe in the power of this conversation, you and I with Rashmi Shetty. I believe in the power of that more than anything else. The future is not for us to see. The past is a gonna. Just enjoy the now. Yeah.
Wow, beautifully bringing it to the present. Well, what were your triggers to get into this space, which now a lot of people are players in, but you were the sole one? And especially now with the pandemic setting in, people have started realizing the value of branding, especially online. And you've been talking about it and been a strategist for ages. What is it?
I think I am a total accident of a person. And therefore, I keep telling people that, sometimes when you think you can't do something, don't worry about it, because you might be the best in that one thing that you can't do, or what you think you can't do. For instance, when I was growing up, I was scared to bits to speak publicly. Okay. I was okay speaking to my family, my mother, my father, my sister, and that's it. Visitors and guests coming in, I would not be able to speak really. And leave alone that, when I actually first got onto stage in school, many, many decades ago, I just couldn't speak. I mean, I used to shiver and, it would be a problem. So this business of public speaking, for instance, I mean, you bit into it. Fundamentally, it was a total accident.
Sure.
The business of branding was yet another accident. I had prepared for my civil services exams, and I actually gave my civil services exam. I didn't get a great rank, which meant that I couldn't get the top 3 services. And I was always wanting the Indian Administrative Service. I couldn't get that. The Indian Police Service, I couldn't get that. The Indian Foreign Service, the last on my list, I couldn't get that. And therefore, I decided that, I would want to try something else. And therefore, I started looking for a job when just after campus. And then, I said that, let me take the first job that comes my way. So the first job that came my way was from a company called Brook Bond Lipton India Limited. What was Brook Bond India, then became Brook Bond Lipton India Limited, then became Hindustan Unilever Limited. If you really look at it, that was my start. So I started a career with Hindustan Unilever Limited, as now known, but then Brook Bond, and spent 8 years there. And those 8 years were my formative years of trying to understand brands, branding, how they operate. So I was in the sales realm. I was started as a group management trainee, became a deputy area sales manager, senior area sales manager, regional manager, brand manager, senior brand manager, that way. So this was the journey that jumped me into the great Indian market. And I started admiring what brands do and what they can do. But then this was all at the operational level. I had still not started conceptualizing. That conceptualization bit came later. And that was when I joined, Tata Tea Limited. After 8 years with Unilever, I moved to Tata Tea. And then I spent another 8 years. There's something about the number 8. At the end of the 7th year, and a certain itch starts to say I must leave. And by the 8th year, I've left. So I joined Levers, moved from Levers on to Tata's, Tata Tea and Tata Coffee, Consolidated Coffee. And that was a turning point for me, because I served under great bosses. I served under bosses who were conceptually one of the best, and people who had the heart of their consumers within them. Everything was about consumer centricity. So I worked with great bosses, and Mr. R.K. Krishna Kumar is certainly one of the icons I've worked under. And I think, out here, I learned the theme of looking after and for consumers. And I think from then on, I started conceptualizing. Then came the branding, theorizing, which I started off at that point. Long answer to a very short question.
No, because I'm not going to ask you the typical question, what is branding according to you? Because that is something now done and dusted with. Like you said, we'll move to the now. It's all about the now.
Yeah.
Branding over a period of time became saturated, and the strategies most companies followed were more or less similar.
Yeah.
But where do you see that the market took a back step and said objectively, now let's see how do we strategize, and how and when did things start shifting in India for branding to become the thing that people started focusing on?
Okay. Typically, the Indian era and the Indian mistake was the fact that we confused advertising with branding.
Yeah.
Half the time we looked at the executions of advertising and said that's branding. And that, I believe, was totally wrong. So I stepped back, and I said that advertising is not equal to branding. So to that extent, I said that, it's very important to define what is real branding. And so I stepped back into strategy and said that strategy is branding. If you really look at an analogy that I put together, I keep saying that, strategy is the dog and advertising is the tail. The dog must wag the tail, and the tail must not wag the dog. So what comes first is strategy. It's the bulwark. It is the body of the dog, the entire body except the tail. And once you've got the strategy right, the dog will vigorously wag the tail, which is advertising. And advertising will take the brand strategy story to the consumers, and it will settle into consumers' lives.
Hmm.
I think that was mistake number one, because a lot of people tended to confuse, advertising for branding. And this happens even today in the day and age of startups, when a lot of startups get confused, thinking that advertising gives us that big share of mind and I must go with advertising. Even till date, we don't understand the difference, enough, in the sense that, strategy must lead and advertising must follow. So I think, I looked back at that and I said that, advertising is taking us not to too many places at this point of time, because we moved from the sublime to the ridiculous. We've had all kinds of things. We've had something called an honest shirt. We've had something called a toothpaste with oxygen in it. We've gone from the sublime to the ridiculous. So from the sublime to the ridiculous and back from the ridiculous to the sublime is the journey of good branding. And good branding today is all about saying, I need to think consumer first. I lead with the consumer, what the consumer needs, what the consumer wants, what the consumer desires, what the consumer aspires for. Let me give all of that. But let me not give that one thing, what I want to give, the brand marketing, because that's top-down branding. I have a product and I want to force you to try this product. Whether you need it or not is not my concern. Whether you want it or not my concern. Desire, aspire for, not my concern. And that's the beginning of good branding. The integrity line, which says that I offer only things which consumers need and want, and maybe desire and aspire for. Just as long as you've got that story right, I think you'll do well in branding, because a consumer respects people who respects him, her, or them.
So in the space of all of this, where does personal branding fall, Mr. Bijoor, especially now in today's world? Where does personal branding fall?
Okay, firstly, I'm very against the concept of personal branding, the way it's defined typically and used, which is to say that, a lot of people come to me, and I do personal branding as well, but I do it differently, in the sense that personal branding is important, but personal branding must also be based on the foundation of good integrity. So there are people who come to me, politicians come to me, lots of them. Okay, and if there are 10 politicians who come to me, maybe I take one. Okay, fundamentally because there needs to be a sync with the ethos of the politician and I. Because a lot of people come to you and say that, I'm this, but I want to showcase myself to be this. I'm not a showcase person. I'm not a person who takes a person and says, I'll showcase you the way you want to be, because that's lack of integrity. If I do that, it hurts my inner psyche to say that I've done such a terrible thing. I've taken a wolf and made him look like a sheep. Now that's wrong. I keep telling politicians who come to me, or actors who come to me, or cricketers who come to me, or wannabes who want to be something in the world of business come to me. I tell them, listen, extremely important. If you're a wolf, look like a wolf, because even a wolf can be an endearing wolf, But if you're a sheep, look like a sheep. Okay, don't be a wolf in sheep's clothing, because that would be totally wrong, and you will not go too far. And therefore, brands are good thoughts. Brands are negative thoughts, positive thoughts. Some of the best brands in India, human brands, is a brand called Veerappan, the dacoit. Veerappan is a strong brand in a lot of people's minds. So much so that the company in the United Kingdom has actually launched a Veerappan mustache wax, which sells beautiful with a logo of Veerappan on it. You know, a bit like Che Guevara and the drawings that come out and iconic. Hey, listen, you could be a thug, you could be a bandit, you could be a poacher. Brand yourself as a poacher, brand yourself as a bandit. You'll do well. And that's exactly what's happening, in society.
Okay, this is really interesting. And with the onset of the pandemic, there are a lot of people who quit working and became solopreneurs.
Yeah.
So that is where the question of personal branding came in. And I remember your very popular Micah TED Talk, where you spoke about the three chickens.
Yeah.
And that was something which was very interesting for me, where you spoke about the silent chicken, which doesn't speak too loudly, and then the honest chicken, and then the one who's too loud. So
Right.
for these kind of solopreneurs who have just stepped into the market, have a good product, what kind of a chicken should they be in order to be visible when everyone today is screaming online?
Yeah. Well, for the solopreneur, one of the first things is, again, the start point of branding is integrity. The second part is, don't confuse advertising with branding in terms of strategy versus execution. The third point is that if you're a solopreneur, it's extremely critical for you to invest in building your brand persona. Because, you need to be seen and you need to be wanted out there. But again, when you do that, you need to do that with integrity as a touchstone. You're a thug, showcase yourself as a thug. The thing is, it's this business of saying that, I need to be out there in public light. Very, very important. But public light is of a different kind today. Gone are the days of television, print, radio, outdoor as public light. Public light today is that much more advertorial. And it isn't advertorial in the sense that, you appear in a newspaper, but it's advertorial in the sense that you appear in a digital medium. Much of the time of your own making, because many of the digital mediums are 1:1. In fact, all of them are 1:1. It's the reinvention of 1:1. Every Tom, Dick, and Harish can broadcast today, because I'm on Twitter and one message of mine will reach a certain number of people. And you could be on Insta, you could be on Facebook, and that's exactly what happens. Therefore, the solopreneur must focus on building his digital assets, as they call them. And the digital assets to build are maybe 7 in number out of a total of 421 possible assets out there. But my research tells me 7 is enough for you. And these 7, if you focus, and 3 of them I've already mentioned, it's a question of saying that, you can actually create a brand persona for yourself without the intervention of traditional mediums either. Because today people are all about, being on the mobile, it's 24/7, and, this is the only device which you're closest to, you're closer to this, then you're closer to your spouse, to the extent that, there's a certain degree of anxiety. Every bit of what happens in the personal relationship with a human being happens with the mobile phone as well. So if you really look at it, it's being there with your mobile phone on digital mediums and communicating continuously, optimally, of course. But building the image of a solopreneur is very, very important. You must focus on your work. You must focus 90 on your work and 10 on building and communicating, because it's building an image is communication. And this communication, again, is about those 3 chickens, which you and I spoke about just now. I think you can't be a shy chicken where you can't understate facts, because gone is the era when you'd say that, let work talk. I will work and my work will talk. Okay, which is the best thing to do, actually, because work must talk. But then in the clutter of the solopreneur market, where everybody has quit jobs and is starting out on their own, if you have to stand out, you can't be that shy chicken. You have to be an honest chicken who says that I work 100 and I communicate 100 of it out in the market. But then, as you communicate, you can't be the dishonest chicken as well. You can't work 100 and communicate 400. because that make you an incredible chicken. So it's important for you to be that honest chicken, communicates loud and clear through a set of digital assets you build for yourself. And I think this can be done. But again, don't go disproportionately into it in the sense that work should always be 90 and communication should always be 10. Under communicate, overwork, great thing to do.
Okay, if you're going to choose 5 social media platforms or 7, like you said, and you're going to communicate to the world, how do you draw the balance of this 90-10 when you know that, okay, this much of communication should do, let me focus on work? Because a lot of distraction happens since everything is online. Work is also online as much as communication is.
Yeah.
So how are the lines drawn? How do you do that?
Well, a good way to draw the line is to keep a certain quantum of time in a day for communication. Okay. I keep some 20 and odd minutes in a day for communication, for instance, and this is the morning hour when I've just woken up. I get on to Twitter. I have a thing called iKannada, which is, I tweet one Kannada word every day. And yesterday I entered into the 5th year of doing this. So there's some 1,452 days of Kannada tweeting that I've done. It becomes a part of discipline. Okay. And what does it do? This word goes out there and people look at it. And I think it's a way of communicating as well. Then I go straight on to my Instagram, I'm not on Facebook. So I go on to Instagram. And then I do whatever I do on Insta. Then I go to my LinkedIn. And I think LinkedIn is a very vital piece of my communication process. That's it. Most of the time, I'm really talking just 3 digital mediums. Okay. Now I've gotten into language to an extent, so possibly I'm on Koo, because Koo is giving me that option of communicating to the audiences which are in Kannada and in Gujarati, in Hindi, Telugu, etc. So that is what I do. So allocate 20 minutes of your day for communication, let's say. And that's it, because 20 minutes out of 24 hours is a small quantum of time. It isn't that 90-10 even. It's much, much, much lesser. But there could be some people who want to do a 90-10. If you work 18 hours a day, then, maybe try that 90-10. And once you have done this, it becomes a part of discipline of communicating. Because today you can reach out 1:1 to a lot of people. And gone are the intermediation days when you had to be intermediated by a media publication, right? Or a media channel. So I think this is how it would work. And again, communication is two-way because you're reading what people are saying, because you have your finger on the pulse of the consumers out there as well. Because please understand, everyone is your consumer, like you are everybody's consumer. So each one of us is a consumer. I consume others and others consume me. And to that extent, it's a two-way dialogue that needs to be on. Yeah.
And when does a communication interest you? When do you think that you indulge in that conversation a little longer than you normally would have chosen to?
Okay.
From the perspective of being a brand strategist yourself.
Okay. What excites me is intelligent conversation. Anything that brings in a new idea or a new thought to the party. I'm the first one to jump out there and say, hey, what a brilliant idea. But what I get distanced by is rabid conversation. The rabid conversation that goes on social media just puts me off completely. Because social media is peopled by people and machines. So social media is peopled by a real human being, a person like you and I. Then the second is, the fake human being. No. A real human being, one. The second is the intermediated human being. A human being who's chosen an agency to take the message into the market. I'm not very much for it, fundamentally, because, I tend to say that if you tweet, you must tweet yourself. You must not have an agency tweeting you. So, because, you speak from your heart and you kind of, will say, communicate whatever is communicated. Whereas intermediation can be centered out by people straight away. I think it's not him, it's not her, it's not them, it's someone in between. So there's a real human being, there's an intermediated human being, and then there is the bot, okay, and then there is the troll, And the troll is an animal employed by people at times to troll somebody and pull them down. Now, these are really negatives that exist in society. So what puts me off is troll conversation. Anybody even slightly denigrating anybody on social media just puts me off. This is not social media then. It's anti-social media. I like to be on social media. I don't want to be on anti-social media. So I don't indulge in conversations which are negative. There's enough negativity in our lives around us. COVID brought in enough of it. Why create more of it? Because one of the things that the pandemic has done to us is it has brought us very close to recognize mental health issues. It's one of the biggest issues touching all of us, some way or the other. I mean, why touch mental health or worsen mental health even on social media? So social media must be very, very careful. And I keep warning it all the time through my every tweet, my every communication that, hey, listen, guys, sanity must be back, even on social media.
There was a news item recently which spoke about the pandemic epiphany. That is something everyone's talking about. And so many people have taken that step back to understand what is important to them. Work-life balance became the first thing that came to most people. And like you said, mental health. So mental health issues were there. What do you think in the pandemic brought it to the fore and became a topic that we could actually speak in the drawing room?
Firstly, the pandemic has done good things and has done bad things. The good thing it has done is it's made people realize who they really are, made them sit up and say that, hey, listen, get off the treadmill. I mean, the treadmill is a very, very artificial device you are walking on and it's taking you nowhere. So people were jolted all of a sudden. And so many people all across the globe have reassessed their lifestyles. And the reassessment of lifestyle is all about saying, again, the key phrase you used was work-life balance. Am I balanced or not? If my work-life balance doesn't exist, why must I continue in my same job? So lots of people have decided to quit their jobs. The United States is a classic arena. As much as 4.6 million people have quit their jobs after the pandemic. Okay, and that's a large number. People have moved from urban centers to rural centers, like in India as well. People have moved from urban centers to rural centers. People have taken to agriculture. People have pulled children out of their schools and gotten into homeschooling, because anyway it's homeschooling with distance education. So homeschooling is back. So we come a full circle. So people are saying, what's the priority? Must I be dictated by the 9-to-5 life? Must I be dictated by the 5-day week life? Must I only celebrate at the weekend and not during the weekday? Must I celebrate only in the city? Must I not go into the village? So there are a lot of reassessment. This is excellent. One of the things that has brought about awareness to mental health is the fact that families have gotten closer together. Families which would never eat dinner together or lunch together are now eating breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the evening snack and the OTT together. So to an extent, COVID is a great binder. I mean, it brought people together. COVID told us a simple thing. When I was growing up, my grandfather used to tell me, young man, go out there, go conquer the world. The world is your oyster. I today say to youngsters, young man, the world is not your oyster. The oyster is your world, and the oyster is your home. And your home is your world, full stop. So which means everything needs to come into the home. As everything comes into the home, I mean, you buy e-commerce stuff, you buy vegetables, fruits, you buy cakes, biscuits, from C to C, somebody in your apartment is baking something you're buying, and everything is coming into the home. What's really happening is it's binding the people within the home a little more. It's binding and it's also creating tumult. Because all of a sudden, people who aren't used to being face-to-face and who are fobbing off issues for a period of time by not being face-to-face, which is shoving things under the carpet, are suddenly bringing it out. And there's a lot of, in Kannada, I would call it garshana. It's a tumult which really is occurring in people's lives. So this is bringing things face to face. I think that's beautiful, because everything that was swept under the carpet is coming out. But at the same time, people need counseling help to manage their lives now. So I keep telling people, at last, it is the day and age of people seeking other people's help at last. And these other people could be professionals one seeks help from. So mental health is one of the biggest issues that's challenging our country, is going to continue challenging our country in the future. Fundamentally, workspace issues, personal life space issues, a lot of things. A lot of people I know who were kind of, separated by small fights or big fights have suddenly reunited. Okay. Fundamentally, because you're locked in the home and then you're reprioritizing, your egos are shattered, thankfully. All our egos are shattered. We were all told you're nothing. You're nothing. You're but a small, tiny little ant which is living inside a home, full stop. And guess what? Your entire life has a full stop moment to it. Fortunately, this wasn't a full stop moment. It was a comma moment, which said pause. Get out the treadmill, think. So we were all put in our place by COVID, the pandemic. And that being put into place was a temporary phenomenon, let's say for about 2 years. And now that we're getting out of it, I hope we don't lose the learnings of COVID. We have spent a lot of time and mental time and a lot of patience with COVID, and we've learned something from it. If we forget it, once life resumes, like it's resuming now, it would be sad because this was a comma moment and we didn't understand it. God forbid we don't have a full stop moment, So I think learning is very, very important. Learn from it. Let's move forward. Let's really look at our lives closer. Don't shed any of the learnings that COVID brought to us.
True. And I think one word that came in very easily into our lives was change management.
Yeah.
Man has always been resilient, and the tenacity to fight situations and these challenges was something that was very visible for everybody. People started seeing a different side of themselves. So when it comes to change management, as somebody in the space who's watching it and has seen the growth over the last 20 months, what do you have to say for the change management that people have to be wary of? One is this, not to forget the lessons of COVID. But what would help us to take this life forward to be more saner and not complain anymore?
Yeah. Well, I would put one thing center stage for a start, to say that, counting our blessings in terms of saying that, hey, listen, we're so blessed actually. But are we counting it at all? Because we've got this typical thought in our head that, I don't have enough. I want to be that. I am this, but I want to be that. Now, this business of being, dissatisfied with what you are and what you have, that must go out of the window. Suddenly, the business to say, a lot of people said, oh God, I'm so thankful that I'm alive, for the first time. That happened. So the first thing is counting your blessings. The second lesson, which I think is very, very important, is this fact to say that we have a finite life. I am not immortal. Believe it or not, work makes you go crazy at times and you think you're immortal. You think that you're going to go on forever. No, my dear friend, we don't go on forever, right? So COVID taught us that. So this business of mortality, to say that I have a certain number of years to live. If I'm born on a day, I die at a particular point of time. That is very, very important. That's the second one. The third one is this business, which comes straight off to mind, is this business of, there are two currencies in our life. And I've defined this in a paper of mine where I said one of the currencies is money, which all of us know. And we all of us run behind money and, earn money and collect money. I don't know for what. We keep collecting and not applying it on doing something good or for oneself or for others. The thing is, time is one currency. The second currency is time and money, the two things. So money is something you and I run behind, and time is something we don't run behind. Now, this business of reassessing the value of time needs to come back. I have these 14 hours in a single day. And guess what? These 14 hours are very, very precious for me, and I want to manage these 14 hours carefully. Application of that, if you paid as much money to attention to time as you pay to money, I think we do well. So these are the top three things for me, wherein, I would say that if COVID has taught us to reassess all these things, then we'll do well. This business of saying time is a valuable currency is applicable in branding as well, because we're all good at understanding the role of money and branding, money and consumers, but we don't know enough about time and consumers. So all businesses need to rejig themselves from the money besottedness to time besottedness, because time is the future. And the fact is, money can be earned and topped up. Time cannot be earned and topped up. Time is finite. Money is to an extent infinite. If you don't have it, you can get it from a VC.
Okay, so what do you need to do to go to the VC to make sure you get the money? You have to think about tomorrow, because in times like these, when tomorrow is not predictable, how do you move ahead of the curve? Because that's one thing you have always been successful at, Mr. Bijoor. You have always been ahead of the curve. So for people who are starting out, what are a couple of things that you would advise or give away a secret on how to stay ahead of a curve?
Well, I would put it this way, that it's extremely important to firstly forget the past altogether. Okay, that's one of the mistakes we make. We get stuck to the past and we think of all the great things I've done and the laurels that you have earned, etc. Forget it. It's all over. I mean, please tell yourself all that was a fluke. Okay, it just happened. It was a stroke of luck. If you can do that, then you're going to show a lot more hunger today in whatever you do. You're going to pour passion into whatever you do today. You're not going to be resting on your laurels and say, oh, I've always been good, I will be good today also. No, you're going to pour more passion. So once you've done that, you're going to be thinking about the future. And when you think about the future, extremely important to make it very sensitive to the future as it's likely to pan out on a scenario plan model.
Yeah.
Not on a straight line forecasting basis. All the forecasting tools which we used to adopt and use in the old days, regression, every one of those 7 tools we don't use anymore because they're all dead and gone. Because forecasts don't go this way, right? Forecasts go this way, squiggly, and then, forecasts go backwards. So there's nothing called forecasting. So there's something called scenario planning. If this happens, what will I do? If this happens, what will I do? 6 scenarios and all 6 scenarios planned. Maybe that's a great way to go. And offering solutions for all those 6 solutions and keeping it ready, because when push comes to shove, you can actually plug in that, so that in business, we have something called business continuity process, which we tend to build for organizations. There needs to be something called life continuity processes as well. And I think you need to focus on that. Okay. And this goes not only for your business, for your entrepreneurial effort, but it needs to be also for your personal life. It should be for every relationship that you have, wherein you don't take things for granted and wherein, you're ready to discuss and take it to the next step. Yeah.
Conversation with you this time seems to be a lot on a philosophical plane as much as strategy as well. So my question now is, the pandemic had taken all of us into a reflective mode. What did it do to you?
Oh yeah, it took me totally into a reflective mode. It asked me, are you doing the right thing? It made me reassess many of the things in terms of saying, are you spending enough time at home, or were you spending enough time at home? Are you focusing enough on what might be important? Have you taken enough number of holidays, which you can't take anymore? I mean, at least in those days. So it made me and got me very reflective. It made me learn new skills. It's a question of saying, I started learning how to box. Boxing is a skill for sure. So I've got a bag in my house. And boxing is one. Sign language. We learn every language. Why not learn sign language was the point.
You've learned it?
I picked up some sign language, so I keep learning it every day. This is my maybe 300 and odd day of sign language. Now, I would, of course, be willing to practice sign language only when I achieve at least 1,000 phrases. That's the target I've set for myself. But it's terrific because that piece of communication, you communicate in English, I communicate in English, Kannada, Hindi. Okay, these are 3 languages I communicate. I can communicate a little in Tamil, but that's it. 4 languages, maybe a little bit in Telugu, 5 languages. That's it. I can communicate in 5. What about the 6th most important one, which is sign language? And I think this is going to be very useful for me as I go. So just imagine I'm doing one of my talks, because I do a lot of, and simultaneously, without waiting for anything, I'm talking animatedly. As I speak, I'm actually communicating, what I mean to say to someone with my hands. And so, which means to say that I'm going to be intelligible to someone who understands English, if I'm speaking in English, and sign language. And I think that's a very great thing to go forward, because, you're communicating to literally everybody. You're not leaving anybody out. So these are things that the pandemic taught me, said, get back, because I had the time suddenly to do things. Boxing, you think in the old days I would be able to, spend about half an hour boxing. I mean, that's tough. And in my younger days, I didn't box, and now I'm trying to box. I mean, that's nice. So, which also says that there's no time limit when you can start what. In my younger days, I didn't learn sign language. I'm learning sign language today. It doesn't matter. So, learning new things, I think, which is relevant, which can touch people's lives in some way, and at the same time, which can touch your own life in some way. Because boxing lets you get out a lot of those energies, on the boxing bag. Yeah.
Okay, question out of curiosity. This is something that I've noticed with you. You always have a count of what you have done and how many hours you've set aside, how many words you put. So what is this behind the counting?
Very good question. In fact, I started being a very numbers-centric person.
Yeah.
So in school, I had a hobby in school. And this in my 6th standard, I started writing letters to the editor. Every newspaper would have a letters to the editor column at the bottom. Now it's shrunk, but there would be an edit page. On top of the edit page, there would be the main article, which would be by a great mind. And then on the left-hand side, 3 editorials. Yeah. And then in the middle, there was something called a middle column. I used to sometimes contribute to the middle, which is humorous on the right-hand side, or some quotes. And at the bottom page, the anchor of it was a letters to the editor. That page used to excite me because it was about consumers, readers talking to the newspaper. I used to write letters to the editor. So I started writing in the 6th standard, and nobody knew I was in my 6th standard because I would write slightly differently. I wouldn't write like a kid.
What would you write on?
I would write on any comment that came, which was political, which was social, okay? Economical.
In 6th standard?
In 6th standard, yeah, because, political issues were going on, and I still remember, there was a time when Raj Narayan was standing against Indira Gandhi for an election or something like that. I used to follow politics even from then, because I grew up in Delhi, and Delhi was the political hotbed, and I've grown up with some very tall stalwarts, because my father, etc., we used to meet in Delhi, in the, particularly people like V.V. Giri. I've sat on Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee's lap, and Nijalingappa ji, etc., etc. I mean, all the icons.
Oh my God. Okay. So I thought you're a Bengaluru Huduga. You seem to be pan-India.
I'm very much in Bengaluru now, but the point is, Delhi was where I grew up. So Delhi puts something into your DNA of being very aware, very, very active, and very politically aware, etc. So I used to write about that. So I started counting. How many letters have I written? So 1, 2, 3, and that became my count start. So that became, how many medals have you written? So I started counting. In fact, I, along with several other people, some 2 or 3 people, there was one Dr. D.V. Nadkarni, and then there was S. Shyam Sundar. Many names, and they would be, and everybody would count how many letters they published. And once there was in Deccan Herald an article which said, these are the letter writers of India. And I felt so good to be one of them, because I had then done some 1,300 letters or something. I ended up with something like 13,500 and odd letters by the time I gave up, because I graduated from letters to articles. So, and I started writing in my 10th standard, some of the articles, and this is how things went. So counting was very important for me. So numbers. I got into marketing, and marketing is all about numbers.
Yeah.
I believed in numbers. So anything that you do, you count. So I tweet out Kannada words, then I counted 1454 is today's word. Okay, 1454th word. Number of hours you speak. I mean, I have somebody in my office who actually records how many hours you speak. But that's very precise. If you're spoken for half an hour, it will be counted as half an hour. If it's 20 minutes, 20 minutes. It won't be counted as the hour. Because numbers are all about precision. You have to be totally precise. And that is an attitude. Therefore, I'm very numbers centric.
Oh my God. Because you always fascinated me by giving that exact count, which most of us just take for granted, but you would always be very particular about the number. Awesome. Okay. Now, can I just ask you that one question? What made you pan-India? Because I assumed you are completely Bangalore bred.
Yeah. Okay. I grew up in Delhi. Fundamentally, my father used to work in Delhi. And we used to, my father was very active there. And therefore, the Kannada Sangha was a very active kind of a thing. Many of the political parties, huge activity. And I used to live in a place called Vittal Bhai Patel House. Vittal Bhai Patel House. I'm the true blue South Indian. When I say Bhai, it comes out as Bhai. Vittal Bhai Patel House, which was where all the MPs, bureaucrats, etc., would stay. So I've grown up with that, set of people together, including, Mr. G.V.G. Krishnamurthy, the election commissioners of every ilk and kind, etc. So I've always looked up to them. And I was, of course, this tiny little guy who must have been 7, 8, 9 years old. But, growing up in that ecosystem happened because of that. And, there were always the clubs, the political clubs, etc. And I've seen funerals, hundreds of funerals, because, the CPI office used to be right there in that building. The PTI office, UNI office was adjacent to it. So there was a lot of political hubbub and activity. And, one always lived in that part of Delhi where political activity was deep. Okay. So that's my connect to politics.
Okay.
He said Langaya. I used to call him Tatavru. And, I think, we grew up amidst all of them. Okay. That was interesting.
Yeah. Now I know where your letter writing came at 6th standard. Okay. So we are in that junction now, Mr. Bijoor, where we would love 3 life lessons from you that you'd like to leave us with.
Mm-hmm. Okay, this is the toughest part of you and I with Rashmi Shetty, which is to say that, hey, listen, what are the 3 life lessons? The first life lesson I would intuitively say is that extremely important to be connected with people, because after all, you are a person, everybody will live in it is a person, extremely important to be connected with life. With people, with animals, with trees, with nature, etc., etc. This is something we forget, because most of the time we do crazy things. We go chopping down our trees, and we tend to say now that, we are going to get these large, machines which will clean the air for us. Okay, so you replace trees with these machines which are going to come by. So what are we coming to? So we don't respect enough of our trees, of nature, anything that exists around us. So respect for everything around. I think, that certainly is a life lesson which comes to you in later life, and which comes to me, which came to me maybe 20 years ago. It should have come to me maybe 30 years ago. That's the thing. But learning that life lesson early is a great thing, to be connected with everything that goes by. The second is this business of saying, staying close to the line of the truth, close to the line of the truth, not maybe always on the line of the truth, but close to the line of the truth. Because that is something which is a non-negotiable. Because if you stick to that, then, everything that you say is going to come with that much greater credibility, and is going to be accepted with that much greater credibility. And the third life lesson for me is not to indulge in any negativity. There are enough people out there who throw negativity into the air and into your face and into your tweets, into your trolls. just don't participate. Just withdraw. I mean, I'm known not to have replied to a single troll any comment. Okay. It's like a troll's comment must be like water off a duck's back. Those are three things, which come to me straight out. Nothing deep, nothing crazy, but something practical for me.
Yeah. And it's all about the now, because that's all we have
Yeah,
control
I guess so. Focusing on the now. Yeah.
Yes. So thank you very much, Mr. Harish Bijoor, walking your talk and showing us how well you're doing it. And those little secrets of yours has made this episode very, very special for me. Honored to have you here and host you. And thank you once again for being on You and I with Rashmi Shetty.
Thank you, Rashmi. My pleasure being with you.
With that, we come to the end of this weekly quest of You and I with Rashmi Shetty. Do let us know if you know people who make the world beautiful. Write in to rashmi.thethirdeye@gmail.com. That is rashmi.thethirdeye@gmail.com. Come, let's explore this amazing world together, both you and I.